two different people commented under two different videos and said basically I'm wrong. One of them says debunk my channel, my videos, and saying I'm misinformed. The other one says, what makes you an expert? So let's talk about the subject matter of both videos really quickly. One of them is a 1965 claim by someone who's supposed to be a professor of physics named R. Foster from Tasmania. This individual is essentially being an expert or an authority figure on video, trying to explain that the moon is not made out of a solid mass, that it's a gas or plasma. Now, the channel that's claiming that I'm, saying what makes you an expert has a video, several of them, of him pointing his camera and telescope combination at the moon, seeing that it is not an undulating mass of gases and plasma, and that it is, in fact, a solid object. This individual, Valentino Galaviz, has spent a lot of time staring at the moon. Again, the claim by this supposed Tasmanian professor of physics, R. Foster, in 1965 is that it's impossible to land on the moon because it's a plasma. Now, why should we listen to this person in 1965 who is absolutely fucking wrong? We don't have a reason to. This is like anybody else making a claim without backing it up. There is no work produced by this supposed professor. And it's presumed this is a professor of physics at a college, could be a high school. Okay, if you have a doctorate, normally you have a thesis and some writings, maybe even some postgraduate work or whatever the hell, but you might have something published. R. Foster apparently was avoiding being found. The R. Fosters we can find, because it's not that hard to find someone who's listed rather glib statement as being R. Foster or some other short name where there's an initial. All of the R. Fosters I could find and everybody else could find failed to match this person except one individual who ended up being not this individual. So what we find is, what makes R. Foster an expert? Okay, Valentino Galaviz, not a goddamn thing. Next he's saying something you know for a fact is not true, because you can see that the moon does not change shape in any significant way over any period of time. In fact, virtually no changes happen over a very long period of time, except for asteroid or cometary impacts or occasional moon buggy going on it. Nothing really changes on the moon. So how is it a plasma, Valentino? Explain it. Do a video explaining how it's a plasma. Now, this also is a channel that has other content like apparently fixating on chemtrails and the moon and music. And that's about it. These are not normal clouds. No, they're not. That happens to be a contrail, condensation trail. I want to point out something to you. Chemtrails are bullshit. And I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, but it's not going to work if you don't want to literally go look up stuff and find out you're wrong. You have to look up, condescending or descending opinions, as I prefer to call them, where people tell you that maybe you just don't know what you're talking about. Now, here's a basic thing. I'm one of many, many people who took this complaint seriously and went ahead and checked the exhaust coming out of jet aircraft, including a unofficial, not acknowledged attempt to fly something, a piece of equipment, behind a jet aircraft to see if it was laying down a trail of anything when it did this. What happened is some friends of mine got a hold of a high-speed, high-altitude plane. Yes, it was a jet aircraft, basically a little bit like a Lear, and taking it up high enough to be able to get behind one and make sample collections. Just catch the mist. There wasn't anything in it. There isn't anything that comes to the ground afterwards. And you can have days, I grew up in an area like this, where there isn't any air traffic for 3 or 4 days in a row. You can check the air quality. It doesn't get any worse or any better in coincident to the airplanes. Next. There is no next. You've observed the moon. It's not a plasma. This is done. What makes you an expert? I take the world as it comes to me, and if anything contradicts what really happens in the world, I learn from that. You're going on the basis, okay, I'll tell you the basis for it. The chemtrail conspiracy theory was created as a way to sell supplements to help people get well from the poisons being dumped by chemtrails. Yeah, they made up a threat to people's health and then sold them the cure. It's a really high-tech thing. It's called fucking lying. That's what it came from. And I think it was Carnicom and a couple of other people. There's a bunch of names that roll around in my head about this. I mean, there's hundreds of people. But the origin story for this was a couple of people who cooked this up one night because they were trying to sell supplements and say what it would help people with. And they said, well, what if the air quality was bad? We're all worried about pollution. Yeah, but that's too vague. Okay, what about if we say it was caused by somebody deliberately doing it to them? That'll get them angry and they'll buy something. Okay, what from? Let's say it's airplanes. Airplanes leave clouds behind. Those are condensation trails. They've been around since piston engines went in the air. They didn't start in a specific year. And they don't have to form under the conditions you've been told, because people will tell you whatever they need to tell you to keep you believing whatever they want you to believe. Go look this shit up and please stop talking to me, because you're not going to listen to me. The other comment was, I'm misinformed and basically debunked my videos. So there's a whole channel filled with videos. But the thing about it was that it was under a video about Bill Gates, 5G, diseases, a person on Twitter, a patent number, and basically something called quantum graphene oxide. Now, everybody knows exactly what that refers to. I can't say the V word because YouTube will flag the video. Graphene oxide, if you're not aware of it, graphene is like graphite, a lot like graphite. Graphene is a variation of carbons that can string together that can be used to make something useful. And technically, graphene or graphite or carbon atoms can be used to make microchips, technically. They're not as efficient as, aluminum, like we're using now, or other materials like silicon and all sorts of stuff. But the claim is that for some reason people have decided that it's already existing technology, that people have figured out how to take carbon and basically, I'm going to say, make it into a 2D crystalline structure that'll form automatically into, self-assemble into logic chips. The base unit for making a logic chip, in many designs, not all of them, is called a NAND gate. N-A-N-D, not AND. It takes two inputs, and if both inputs are a certain value, it puts out a value that's the opposite of it. If this is not A and B, then it puts out an output that's based on that. And it's one of those where you can turn it into a bunch of other gate types. And that way you can make logic that is, it's one of the more versatile gate types with two inputs, one output. They can be used to create circuits. And they can, if in a pinch, under extreme programming. You don't have to use any specialized circuits. You could just use NAND gates to create microchips, thinking machines. Okay? The claim that using just carbon and oxygen, which is what graphene oxide would have to be at that point, with maybe some dopant. Look up what a dopant is. The claim is that that is what's being dumped from the airplanes or thrown in your water supply or sprinkled on your food to control your brain, because somehow, again, it would have to be a self-assembling array of carbon atoms with oxygen that would form into something that would automatically know what to do, and it's always nefarious and evil. Magic fairy dust mode, because, again, microchips, I do actually know how microchips were made in the olden times, back in the old days, because I literally learned how to make microchips themselves. I mean, literally how to make them. And yes, you need industrial equipment. It's a lot of work, and the first $2 or $3 million worth of chips you make won't do a damn thing. It's really expensive and hard work, but I know how they're made. I also know that you can learn how they're made. What makes you an expert? Nothing. I explain to people how they can learn these things so that they're not misinformed. I learn. And then I learn how to teach. That's what I do. So I tell people you can look up how microchips are made, the simplified version, a dummy's guide to making microchips, or microprocessors for dummies, and silicon processor manufacturing for dummies. That's an actual dummies book. And you can learn that how microchips are made. You can also look up graphene oxide and stop looking up conspiracy theories and actually learn what the fuck it really is. And see that it doesn't have the ability to form logic gates. Well, I don't care what you read, I want you to go look it up and find out you're wrong. You have to look up whatever it is, not what is being talked about, but what it really is. Then find out uses for it that have actually been done. Well, they do these things and they don't release them for hundreds of years. Yeah, everybody's studying graphene, and all of them are keeping it quiet in competition with each other in multiple different countries, some of which are at war with each other. They're going to suddenly keep it quiet so that somebody can sprinkle shit on your cereal. Again, I'm not going to be nice about this. Now, some of you out there on the fence, and I'm trying to make light of this. This is actually me joking. But really, seriously, to the people who believe in this crap and will not listen, I don't want you to watch the video. Go fuck yourselves. You're not able to be turned away from the dark side here. The idea that using, at best, this would be like saying water can be intelligent. That's another conspiracy theory. That it has memory. You know, same group of people that originally brought you the chemtrail conspiracy theory to sell you supplements to solve a problem they faked in existence. If you have it, there is a couple of examples of really simple compounds, we're going to call it that can form either crystals or not, that can demonstrate logic circuit-like behavior. You can look up those things. They really do exist. But making them actually do anything requires a fuck ton of work. You're literally manipulating individual molecules. So the claim that graphene oxide could do anything like mind control, first of all, that implies that you've already figured out how to do mind control with ordinary silicon chips. You know, that's a real thing. It's called using the internet and your cell phone. Go out and touch grass, it goes away. Okay? Being honest with you. If you're on the fence about that, you're the only people I can talk to. I don't get to talk to the normies because they don't care about the subject, because they know that if they try to dig into it, it's a rabbit hole and it's no fun. For them, a rabbit hole is painful. Not because it enlightens them and wakes them up, but because nobody ever answers a straight question with a straight answer, because they're trying to filter out what you call normies. I call people with good survival instincts. There's a person on this YouTube channel who's putting out videos that basically is talking smack about all sorts of subject matter without knowing what they're talking about, because you won't look up the competing idea. Let's do the example here that should be done in your head and will be agreed to by most conspiracy theorists. You've been sold a bill of goods that chemtrails are a real thing and they're a nefarious evil attack and it's weaponized war. One of them refers to it as geowarfare. It's not global warming or climate change. It's climate warfare. Okay, fine. Do you read the rebuttals as if you've never read anything else first and actually see what they're saying and see if they're actually, number one, basing what they're saying on things that other people did before, not their own personal work where they don't give out you information. Meanwhile, conspiracy theorists for chemtrail shit have built this tower of bullshit on videos claiming things are real and not giving any evidence at all. Oh, well, there's a photo here. A photo of what? Well, this weird pattern in our microscope. And did you look up what that image is by doing a reverse image search on Google image search and find out it's an image of something completely unrelated that the person just grabbed off the net because it looked cool? Then the immediate response I get is, if somebody even gets that other person to explain it, oh, he did it for illustrative purposes. And I said, did he tell you where he stored the proof that was supposed to be those photos? Well, I didn't ask him, because you're not trying to critique your experts. Again, what makes you an expert? I'm not. I double check experts. I'm like every one of you. I can check to see if Fauci made a mistake. Fauci made some mistakes. He was wrong about things. He also said he was wrong. He admitted he was wrong. Well, that's a sign of weakness. No, it's not. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that he's actually correcting being wrong, so he isn't wrong anymore. Get it? Then you get people who are double downers that never admit they were wrong. They're never going to give you the right answer because they won't admit they've ever had the wrong one. So, you're misinformed, debunk my videos. You have videos on 85 different subjects or something like that, right? Actually, it's about 5 or 6 I counted. I have videos about hundreds of different subjects I've debunked. I'm very good at this because I actually do something terrible to the person making the claim. I treat them like they're telling me the truth and ask them for evidence. And when they don't provide it to me, they're done. If you're supposed to be freeing people's minds and waking up the sheeple, but you won't give them the evidence you found, you're fucking lying. The guy claiming in 1965 you couldn't land on the moon because it was a plasma has never been proven correct and has never offered any reason to believe him. It's just some random person they interviewed. The claim about graphene oxide is based on not looking up how microchips work. You would have to take a course in the subject, but you can take it pretty quickly. It would take you maybe a week or two to find out you're wrong about graphene oxide. I went through college. You wouldn't have to spend thousands of dollars when you were a kid and should have spent it on something better. No, seriously, I shouldn't have gone to college. I should have just been an average workaday person and been happy. God, my life is shit. No, I ended up being a person who ended up teaching the class I was taking because I was doing better than the teacher, and he just said, you do it, I'm tired. He was retiring that year. Anyway, no, I'm not an expert. I ended up teaching a bunch of them. Some of them worked at NASA now. But hey, I was just a community college wannabe. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.